Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Sarah from Handmade After Dark. Thank you very much for joining me. Tonight is the Pretty Florals online class to go, and hopefully my camera and microphone and everything else will work. I do have a new camera that has arrived. I just haven't had a chance to set it up yet, so hopefully everything will hold out tonight. I am getting a little bit of feedback. Hopefully you're not hearing that, but let's get started. I will just switch my camera view and I'm just going to check, just get everything up and running. This will all be a little bit more straightforward once everything else is sorted. All right. So these are the three cards that we're going to be making tonight. And these use the Pretty Florals bundle. Now for these cards, I haven't actually used the stamp set. If you saw my video from the catalog launch, I did use the stamp set on that one. So that's this one. And for this week's online class, so if you place an order of $75 or more before shipping and after any Stampin' Rewards redemptions, I'll send you the kit for this week's cards and a PDF tutorial for them all. And I will be including the tutorial for this one in that as well. So you will get a bonus tutorial, and of course you can rewatch the video. It's up on YouTube to show you how to make that one. And so with the ones tonight, I haven't used the stamp set, but you can easily, if you wanted to, use the stamp set and die cuts as well. I've just used the die cuts, but you could easily, particularly for the smaller ones, or if you want to change it up, use the stamp set. So it is a two-set stamping set. So if you haven't used two-step stamping, you may just want to practice a bit first. Some people prefer the solid image first and then the outline. Others find the other way around easier. Sometimes it can vary between the sets. So just, test it out, see what works better for you. And you may find it varies between different stamps. So have a go at that. And then the dies. So you get all of these dies. So you've got obviously the dies to cut out the flowers from the stamp set, but then you've also got a bunch of other individual dies that you can use on their own. They don't need the stamps to go with them. So I've used a lot of those for tonight's cards. All right, and for the sentiments, I've used sentiments from a few different sets, so you can just substitute whatever you prefer, whatever you've got, whatever works with whatever punches or dies or anything else that you're using for the labels. All right, so we will start with this one. And once I find my it, so this one is a Petunia Pop card base. And if you order the kit, you will get the basic white piece, which has been embossed with the birchwood or the birch embossing folder, plus another piece of basic white for the inside of the card. You'll get some basic white to punch. Actually, you'll get the punched shape for your sentiment. You will get pieces of cardstock and DSP, and then you will also get die cuts. Oop, try not to send them all over the place. All right, so to start, let's do the sentiment first. So I am using the sentiments and coordinating punch from the Bright Borders stamp set. So this one has a punch that goes with it. So this is the to the point label punch, and I'm going to use this this one and then the So Happy For You sentiment. Now, when these are the photopolymer stamps. When you're putting these on your blocks, particularly for ones like this where you do need to punch it out and you want to make sure you've got the shape correct, it's generally better if you take it off, take it out of the stamp set and just let it rest, and then bring your block to it and pick it up on the block. If you pick it up off the stamp set and then try to place it on the block, you may end up with it not being quite aligned with the punched shape or die cut if it's a die cut one. So just a little tip to make it a bit easier, and I have made that mistake before. I stamped a whole bunch of images, went to die cut them on thinking, why is this shape a little bit weird, not quite working? And then I realized that, yeah, I hadn't let them rest and hadn't didn't have them on quite right. They looked fine until you went to die cut them and say, okay, maybe not. So learn from my mistakes, don't make the same ones. All right, so I am using Garden Green for the outline. And then I changed my mind on the sentiment color. So I just used Memento Black for my sample card and decided I didn't really like it all that much. So I'm going to see, let's see how we go with Petunia Pop. I was going to go Garden Green as well, and then I decided that that would just blend in a bit too much. It needs a bit of contrast. So just line it up so it's roughly centered and not over the images in the corner as best you can. There we go. That looks much better than the black one. All right, now we will punch it out now, I suspect, because I've got a small piece that might, yeah. So when you've got a piece of cardstock like this and it's a little bit too small to easily be able to get into, that's handy, to get into your punch and to be able to get into place, I find keeping little leftover strips of cardstock or DSP very, very handy for this. You just add a little bit of adhesive. You can use a removable adhesive if you have one, and just create a little, almost like a little handle, and then might help if I had it the right way around. Then you can just get it into place. And once you're happy with where it is, punch that out. Makes it so much easier. There we go. All right, let's start putting this together. So we need the basic white on the background. I'm going to use the green glue for this one because it's embossed and it just helps it to stick. At least I think it does help it to stick a bit better because the glue can get into all those little nooks and crannies. But use whatever you've got. And then we'll just stick that one down. Right, now we will stick the cardstock and DSP pieces down. Where did there it is, hiding from me. Always hiding. So I'll use the seal for these ones and just double check. So for this one, the DSP does go all the way to the edge, so the border is just at the top and the bottom, not the sides. Probably should have used the green glue for this one actually, but never mind. It'll be fine. Right. And then I'll just trim off the end. I just made this one a touch longer because I usually end up going the other way and it ends up just a little bit short and it drives me nuts. So I went the other way just a tiny bit longer and then just trim. So the cardstock I'm using on this one, if you haven't seen it before, is the Cloud Cover, which is one of the new ink colors. And Petunia Pop is one of the ones from last year. So that one is going to go there, and that one will go over the top. Minus all the extra little pieces that decide they want to come along for the ride. So just slightly up from the bottom with this piece. Just wipe off all the extra bits of glue. And then that one will sit centered just a little down from the top. And make sure you've got the pattern of your paper facing the right way up. And we'll stick that one down. And then I'm going to stick this one up on some dimensionals. Might get some more out soon. All right, that should be plenty. If I can get the backing off, there we go. All right, so we'll sit this one down so it just sits over the end of the top piece of DSP. And then we're going to add these. Now you can add them over the top or underneath or a bit of both. I might actually switch this one around from the sample card and stick two underneath and one on top, just so that the corner isn't entirely hidden. And then we want the leaf to go in underneath, so I'll stick that down first. Just be careful when you're placing your dimensionals that you can still stick your the leaf piece underneath. I've lost count of the number of times I've put a few too many dimensionals on and then gone to attach something that sits partly underneath and gets blocked by the dimensionals. Alrighty, so that's just going to sit under there. And so I'm going to put two of these underneath. So just add a little bit of green glue to these ones. And then the top one I will pop up on, oh, once I stick the second one down and it doesn't try to come back with me, then that one I will add a couple of dimensionals too. I just want the dimensionals for the bit that hangs off the edge because I don't want to add too much height there. So we're just going to add them across the top here. Probably don't need all three, but you know, why not? Make sure it sticks. And then I'll just add a little bit of glue to the bottom so that it sticks. So that'll just stick on the corner there. All righty. Now, all that is left is to add some embellishments. So I'm using the brushed brass butterflies and the 2025 to 2027 in color flat pearls. So, oops, cord's going everywhere. I will add one of the little butterflies. And then I'm going to use some of the cloud cover pearls. I'm just deciding where I'm going to put them. So I'm trying to go for in the center of some of the flowers, but also being mindful of where they're all sitting and making sure they're aligned properly. Where should we put the last one? Can I get in there? Yeah, let's go down there. Alrighty, I'll smooth that one out of the way, and then we just need to add, we may as well do this now, add the insert piece. Alrighty. Get that down. And of course, if you wanted to, you could add a sentiment on the inside as well. Or you can just leave it blank. Alrighty, card number one. Done. Now, on to the second one. So we'll do this one second. This is a really easy fun fold. And if you wanted to, I haven't done it with this one, but if you wanted to, rather than using the Timid Tiger strip for the little flap, you could use the bit that you're going to cut off your card base. So you could use that instead. And you could also, if you wanted to, lay the three up, so you could have Strawberry Slush, Timber Tiger, and then your DSP. But I'm just going with the Timber Tiger and DSP for the moment. The circles are cut with the Stylish Shapes dies. So for those who are getting the kits, you will get those 2 die cuts in your kits. Once I find where my, oh, there it is. My card base. There it is. So in the kits for this one, you will have, so the 2 Stylish Shapes die cuts that I mentioned. You will need the die set. You'll get the cardstock for the leaves, so that's Granny Apple Green, so you'll get that. But you'll need the die cuts to cut them out. You get the Timber Tiger cardstock, the DSP, some more Timber Tiger and DSP, and yet more again for the inside and the basic white. So to start, we will do the stamping. So for this one, for the sentiment, I used the Beautiful Motifs stamp set. So I just used the You've Been on My Mind from that one. And I'm using Strawberry Slush ink. And there's my stamp. Yep, not quite as centered as I'd like, but that'll be fine. Yeah. It's gonna, could always attach it further across, and then it looks like it's meant to be that way. What do you reckon? And then we could, to change it up slightly, where's my green? Let's just see what this is gonna, see how this will look before we actually stick it down. So if we move that across, and then you could stick this. We could go that way. That'll work. Yeah, let's try that. Why not? Of course, you can do it however you want. You can go with the original version. You can go with something completely different. So let's just try this. I don't usually do things on the fly like this. It's not my strength. I'm very much I need everything planned perfectly and completely organized and everything cut and ready, and I need to know exactly what I'm doing. Otherwise I'm a mess, but this is about as good as it's going to get for me. All righty, let's start getting this together. So we're just going to, so this is for the inside of the card. Oh, actually, before we do that, so I don't forget, I'm going to cut a little bit off end. So flip this around. We want to cut 3.3 centimeters off. So if you wanted to, you could use that as your flap for the card. Now, I just need to make sure that I don't stick this one down before I stick that one down. So how about, now this one is longer than what you actually need. It was just the size I had, so I just left it. The longer section for this one is going to be the front, and I have scored both of these individually. If you wanted to, you could stick them together and then score. That will work as well and can actually be a little bit easier. Alrighty, so you want this one right up on the edge. I am going to let it hang over just a bit, just because sometimes when you score it, it can, well, not so much when you score it, but when you fold it, sometimes I find it moves ever so slightly. It's not this time, which is good, but that's fine. I'll just trim the end off. I found it did do that when I did my sample card, that it just ever so slightly moved. So I just adjusted the score line slightly. So let's stick this one down. See, this is where I really need someone to be in my ear reminding me to not stick the two pieces down before I put the flap down. All right, so not sticking down just yet, just getting the alignment. All right, so that will go there, and then you want this one to sit about the middle, and you do want it to sit at the, basically you want the score line where the edge of the cardstock is going to sit. So you do want to try and work out where it's going to go and then work out the placement, and just make sure it's got a bit of room so it's not crushing it as it folds, but that's about where we want it. So I'm just going to, it's not going to stay quite where I want it. Actually, no, that's not going to work. Let's just get the glue down. All right, now what I will do is work out roughly where that needs to sit. Actually, let's do it this way. So I'm going to wrap that round, grab onto that, and work out, get the edge of that in place. My top piece keeps moving. And then once you've got that about right, you can just press that down. And I'm sure most people can do it a lot easier with less fuss, but I always mess it up if I don't. So, and then we'll come back in, glue this down in a sec, just make sure, yep, that is where we want it. All right. And I'm just going to lift this up just so I can make sure that it is the edge of the cardstock is where I need it to be. Push it up ever so slightly. There we go. Done. All right, now we're going to flip that over so that we can do this one. And just remember the direction of your paper with this one. So when you go to stick it down, just make sure you're sticking it the right way. So just going to center that, and then that is going to sit in the center of this panel. All right. Okay. We are nearly done with this one. Okay, that is that bit done. Now all that is left, once I find my pieces, there they are. So we are going to change this one up slightly. So actually I'll just fold this over just so we can see how it sits. So that'll sit about there. And then because we changed these, we are going to have, let's see, one, if I could pick them up. And then the other one will just sit over there. That should work. All right. So just glue this one down. Just make sure you don't go right to the bottom or the top. It almost fits, but there's a little bit of, tiny bit of a gap, and the glue squidges out anyway. So we will sit that about there. And actually with these, because these are quite small and I didn't cut these using I didn't add the adhesive sheets to this, which I should have. So if you don't have adhesive sheets, or if you're like me and you forget until after you've die cut, what you can do with your silicone mat and a sponge dauber, just put a little bit of the green glue on your mat, pick it up on the dauber, and then you can just dab the glue over your piece. And it's a lot easier than trying to squeeze the glue onto all those very fine pieces, but it also means it's less likely to squidge through to the other side. Just try and hold down your piece as you add the glue. Don't try not to let it sort of rock around in the glue too much. Probably will a little bit, but that's all right. Just try not to let it do that too much. And I probably should have, let me grab this. I'm just going to pick this one up ever so slightly because I want this one to sit behind slightly. So I need a bit more of this one. I should have put stuck these down in the wrong order. Wouldn't be the first time. Oop, making a mess of this, aren't I? That's all right. Let's just carefully lift it up. That one needs to still come up a bit more. They're really not cooperating with me tonight. Let's try from this side. Okay, it wasn't quite the way I wanted it, but that's all right. That will do. I may come back and add a third one later, we will see. But we will be here all night if I keep messing around with that. So all we need to do now is add some embellishments. So again, I am using the 2025 to 2027 in color flat pearls, and I'm going to add a couple. Couple of the lilies. Good. And actually, let's add a couple more for good measure of the yellow ones, because why not? Alrighty, there we go. I will make an adjustment to that one later, but that's fine. That was the original, and that was the second one. Alrighty, last one. Where is it hiding? So this is the final one. And so this one uses the Secrecy card base. And then in your kits, you will have an embossed piece of peach pie cardstock. You'll have some basic white cardstock to sponge and then die cuts. Some DSP, you'll get some peach pie and Summer Splash cardstock to die cut. I highly recommend with this one that you do die cut this with the adhesive sheets. I did not, but I recommend that you do if you have them. And then you'll get a basic white piece with the textured notes for stamping and some basic white for the inside. So let's start with the sponging. So what we're going to do is just sponge some peach pie ink on some basic white. I'll just grab a scrap. And you don't need to be too particular with this. We just, oh, my peach pie ink is a little bit juicy. I might need to fix that up later. It'll be fine for now. So we're just going to sponge, and do a larger area than you're going to need for the die cut. That way, you know, if there are bits that you don't like, you don't need to use those bits. If, you know, some bits are lighter or darker, and also you've just got you've got more area to choose from when you die cut to get the shading that you want. So keep some areas lighter, some darker, so you've got a bit of gradient in the color. Now just, where are my dyes? Just double check the size that we need, because we want this large one, so we need to make sure that it is going to fit. That's just going to fit. Probably should have made that a little bit bigger, but never mind. It'll work. So I'll just add a bit more. And that should be enough. Need to remember to get some of the excess ink off that later. All right, let's get my gloss out. So you just want your plate 1, your plate 2, line it upside down, and then your 2 plate number 3s. Probably a good time to flip it over anyway. So just stick your piece down and then think about where you want the lighter and darker areas, and place your die. And of course, if you wanted to do multiples, just ink up a larger area and as many as you need. So let's see how this one looks. There we go, that looks fine. Bring that back into the center. And of course, you can always add more ink afterwards. So you don't have to, you know, you're not limited to doing it before you die cut. You can always add more a bit later. So just put that one back and bring everything back in. And while I've still got that little bit of glue left on the silicone mat, I am going to just work out or try and remember where this ideally goes. That's about it. Yeah. All right. And I've dropped it and I'm probably going to forget. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing again that I did before. Might need to add a tiny bit more because it's also starting to dry out and get a bit tacky. So just grab a bit more. That should be enough. So the good thing with the silicone mat is that, one, if you do get glue on the other side of your paper, it won't tear when you pick it up. It'll just peel off. And also the other thing is you can just wipe the glue off, or kind of just peel it off when you are done. So it makes cleaning up very, very easy. And I have glue all over my fingers right now, so this is not wanting to cooperate at all, but that's all right, we'll get there. There we go. All right, let's move that to the side now. Oh, the other thing I need to remember with this one, I need ribbon. So I'm using the peach pie bordered ribbon. Now, I was just having a look in the online store, probably about 10 minutes before I started this video, and all of the ribbons from the 2024 to 2026 in colors are now on last chance list. So 2025 to 27 is fine, but for last year's in colors, if you want the ribbons, I would put an order in sooner rather than later, because they have now all gone onto last chance list, which means once they sell out, that is it. I don't know what stock levels are like, but if you want them, I would not hesitate. All right, so we want to, so this piece, the embossed piece, is going to overlap on the DSP, so we want it to be about, and I can't see the score line very well with the light that way, so it's going to pick it up. So you want it to, the total to be about 10 centimeters. So it will, you've got that tiny little overlap, and then we'll add the ribbons. So I am going to, because I am no good at eyeballing this sort of stuff, I'm going to add some glue to this. I'm going to do it, actually, need to be careful. I don't need to do the entire thing. I actually just need a very small amount. That's about to do the whole thing, which in the end won't matter, but not just yet. So we are going to line that up as best I can so that I've got that border, and I am, before I press down too much, just going to bring that, straighten it up a bit. I am just going to check that it's about the width I want. Yep, that's fine. Some people are really good at eyeballing this stuff and just do it straight up, no issues. Not me. Not me. Alrighty, let's grab this ribbon. So we just want enough that we can wrap around. And I'll add tear and tape to this one, because it just makes it much easier to stick it all down once I find the end. Just a little bit more for the ends, or off the end as that one is. Alrighty. And then we'll just take the backings off. Try and take just the backing. Doesn't want to cooperate with me tonight. This ribbon is actually usually pretty good with the tear and tape. Some ribbons are not all. This one is usually pretty good. So just put that over the join. End of that tape has come off. All right, stick it back down. All right. And then we'll just stick that one down there. I will use Civil for this one, try to get extra bits of glue on it. So we just want a little bit of a border around all the edges on this one. And then, oh, I forgot to, I haven't done the sentiment. So let's do that. So for the sentiment for this one, I'm using a different stamp set. Again, this one is the mixed label. So this is a clean stamp set, so the red rubber. And I'm just using the I'm so glad we're friends sentiment. And I'm going to use Secret C for this one. And for this one, because the flower is going to cover part of the label, we want to stamp over in the right hand side. It doesn't have to be right at the end, but you want it to be fairly close so that it doesn't get covered by the flower. All right, let's move that out of the way. So that is done, and then we can actually, we'll stick that one down next. So that's going to sit there, and then the flower will sit on top, and the two leaves will sit underneath. So let's stick that one down. Just want to make sure the glue has dried. Ignore the messy back of my cardstock. If you wanted to, you could put this piece up on dimensionals as well. I decided not to, just because the flower is going up on dimensionals and wanted to make sure it wasn't adding too much height. Now the flowers are going to go underneath about there, so we just want to make sure that when we put the dimensionals down, that we have enough space for those to get under. So most of these are going to go towards the top and the sides. And then I will just check that will sit nicely. You can probably put one in right in the center, which will also just give it a bit more stability. So just hold that down, make sure your flower doesn't go too far over the edge. You don't want it going over the score line. And then we will just add a little bit of glue underneath. I'll put that a little bit further. Oh, there we go. That's better. And that one, then all we need to do, we'll add the insert piece first, just before I forget. Just stick that down. I'm just going to grab adhesive removers are wonderful tools, especially if you're like me and use far too much. I just like things to stick. There we go. And then we will add some embellishments. So again, I'm using the 2025 to 2027 in color pearls, the flat pearls. And we are going to use, now this one is Timid Tiger, not Peach Pie, but it does work. And you could, if you have the 2024 to 26 flat pearls, so that the same style in the 2024 26, you can use those as well. I didn't have them at the time that I made this sample card, so I went with what I had, and it does work. They match close enough, so you can use either one. Originally I was intending to use the other ones, the 2024 to 26 for this one, but then I decided that, well, this one does work, so I'll stick with this one. Why not? So I'm just going to add one more. Where are we going to go? Up here. You can add as many as you want, of course. Alrighty, where's my lid? There it is. All right, so that is the third card. So I'll just bring these all back in. So these are the 3 cards from this week's online class to go. So you've got until this Saturday, the 7th of June, to get your orders in, and I will send you the kits. The kits include supplies to make 2 of each. So you'll get 2 kits for each design, and then the PDF will also include the tutorial for all 3, plus the extra one that I did in the live for the catalog launch. Alrighty, I will just quickly switch my camera back. There we go. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the cards. If you do make them or make variations of them, please share. I would love to see what you come up with. And thank you for joining me, and I will catch you next week. Have a great week. Bye.